Welcome to the Unshakable Self-Confidence Podcast, where each week, Billy Atwell and his guests will help you get to the root of all your self-doubt, overcome your painful past, and most importantly, to transform into a truly confident person. And now, your host, Billy Atwell.
Hello, all my fellow Phoenixes, and welcome to Unshakable Self-Confidence. As you know, I'm Billy Atwell, founder and host of the Unshakable Self-Confidence podcast. You're really going to love today's episode, and with guest Jen Ward. She's going to fit right in with your request on topics for the show from the survey, one of them being dealing with those ancestral karmic patterns, or as I like to call them here at Unshakable Self-Confidence, the inherited negative self-image, or those conditioning patterns that are passed down through generations, which bind us into these sort of unconscious programming of behavior, and especially when it comes to relationships, because you guys know my story about that. But until we discover them. And so I know you're really going to love it. And she's going to be sharing some techniques with you, some tapping techniques and some stuff to help get rid of the toxicity in your body and in your mind and your spirit as well. But we will be talking a lot about what you guys are, important to you, which is dealing with those karmic patterns so that you can break them, be free from them, and move beyond them. All right. So before we jump in with Jen, just a reminder, this show is available on Apple and Spotify. So please take a moment to subscribe. It also streams every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on YouTube. So take a moment to subscribe to that as well, and come join us on the conversation live. You can answer your questions on air as well if you'd like. All right. So without further ado, let's bring on Jen. Welcome, Jen. How are you today?
Hi, Billy. Great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So we were talking a little bit, before the show, and like I just mentioned, this is a topic that's very important to everyone that's listening out there, to all the people in the Phoenix tribes. But before we jump in, can you take a moment to introduce yourself and explain a little bit about your journey and why you do the things that you do, and even possibly just a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to be talking about today?
Sure. So I'm one of you guys. I was the youngest of 10 in an alcoholic family, both sides. I was the youngest, so my mother was terrified of giving birth again. She'd have nightmares about it, and she wanted to get rid of me. So all in the utero, she was trying to get rid of me, and she didn't try to abort me, because she tried to do that with a sister and she failed. But she tried to knock herself downstairs, and she tried to pickle me out and everything. So she was drunk during my whole pregnancy, and on my birth she was drunk, and she cursed me, and she brought me into this family, and they all just hated me. There was an unwritten rule that you don't give me love, don't give me attention. And it was just, I came into this world unloved and unwanted, and I was the butt of everybody's jokes, and just pushing everybody's buttons just for existing. So I had all of that resistance, which is beautiful, to do research for why these things happen. And so I grew up, I had potential. I had all this potential, but nobody nurtured it and stuff. So it went, squandered and stuff, waitress, whatever, until late in my life, went into massage therapy school. And I had all these alternative healers take an interest in me. And they said their spirit guides told them to do anything they could to help me, because I was important. And so when I went to massage school, I realized I could move energy with my mind, and I could see those patterns that you're talking about. Not only could I see my own, but I could also see other people's, those ancestral patterns that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I call them engrams. And what I can do is, when I do a private session with someone, I see those engrams just like their everyday life, and I give them taps. I do the tapping technique, spiritual freedom technique, and I give them tappings so that they can release those core issues themselves. And when they release those ancestral patterns, it just automatically fixes aspects of their present lifetime. So it just falls like like a house of cards. So, and in the tapping, I worked closely with my spirit guides. I was locked up, starved, and tortured by this sociopath for a year, and I had access to all his lunacy. So I had all that rich research on everything people deal with, everything in the human condition that someone could deal with as far as abuse. I've experienced it, and so it's great research for what I do now, because I created this protocol with. When I was on that property, I was sensory deprived. We only talked to like the spirit guides and the trees and nature itself. And then I developed, when I went back to humanity or society, I was so brainwashed. I thought, and I had almost been starved to death. I thought I was a retarded boy. So I started out really pure, and I developed this protocol to help others. It's called the SFT. Well, the SFT worksheets, but there's like 4 protocols. One's called the energetic cleanse, where you put in, if you know what the pattern is, you put that in the worksheet, and you do the taps. And we'll teach people how to do the taps, and then they can remove their own patterning if they know what they are. They might not know exactly what they are, but they have hints on it from what's happening in their lives, like you have hints of what's happening with your patterning and stuff, or was happening. So those are on my website, and people can, those are for free. Just, I want to help humanity. I want to help everybody.
Great. So it might be a good idea for everyone to get those worksheets and then listen to this episode again, because we will be talking about the process, and you're going to be explaining the process and helping everyone through, at least through those beginning steps. I've got to say, I'm sorry, Jen. I've got to say, first of all, especially, hearing your story and talking to you now, one of the things that I think what happens when we go through this process is because we're in that victim mode, is that we don't think that people understand, or that it's just happening to us. And you're a really perfect example, if I may say so, about everyone goes through this process. We all have to deal with it. And yet some people like yourself really go through the muck. And so maybe we should just take a moment to quit complaining about the process and just realize that it's just sort of something that everyone kind of goes through, and that some people actually have it worse.
Can I just say something on that?
Yeah, please.
I think it's really exciting, because people think that that's the thing, that they're programmed and conditioned by the abuse to think that they're singled out. But if you think of it the opposite way, it's the commonality. I mean, just like it's what connects you to your listeners, and that's the bond with you. It's that way with all of humanity. The collective that's what combines us, is the abuse that we've endured as individuals, and we bring that strength into the collective. It's really beautiful if you think of it that way.
Beautiful, I will say, just in terms of freedom from the lack of it's just me, the isolation, the fear, the shame, and the guilt that goes with that. Because the people that pass it on are operating under it too. It's phenomenal, as I've done this research for the 9 years now, that literally everyone has some sort of ancestral karmic pattern that they're just passing on through the world. So you're not technically alone. It's the ones who heal and get freedom from it are the rare species.
But the beauty about, that's why my book, the SFT Lexicon, is so evolutionary, because revolutionary, because you don't only just release yours, you can release those patterns for your family, your loved ones, from groups, from society, and from humanity itself. So there's group ways to do it, and it's like that's the way we can uplift all of humanity, is take that pain that we have that vibratory connection with, and use that as a target for what we want to help humanity release. And because I found out from my life, and my sensitivities. I'm an empath, obviously. I think a lot of people in our situation is that it's so much easier. It's so much easier for me to take the pain, to me be the one that's hurt, than to think of myself doing it to someone else. That to me is unbearable. So I'd much rather be me than the person who's done this to me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Definitely, there's a sense of awareness that sometimes has been a double-edged sword. Actually, walking in the world after basically living in a monastic environment for 9 years, and really kind of getting out into the world in the last couple of years, um, on a full-time basis. Um, Especially because when you're so sensitive, like you're an empath or an intuitive, and it's like you feel the energy, you see the pattern right there that they're acting from, and they're not even conscious of it. It can be difficult sometimes.
It's very difficult. You
Yeah,
know, I found because because people who see that you see that, they have a reaction to you seeing that. They
yeah,
don't know that you're seeing it, but they know that they don't like that you're seeing it. So they'll
yeah,
have a negative reaction to you for no reason. And
yeah,
I've had that as well. So I found what works best is just being even kinder, like painfully kind and understanding and stuff. And it's almost like ruthlessly kind, and like it's the only way to not set them off because they're so volatile with all their patterning. Does that make sense?
yeah. It's very much, what pops into mind. A couple things actually. First of all, Gandhi, one of my favorite heroes,
Me too.
displayed that very accurately. The concept of turn the other cheek. It's like don't engage in the same energy patterns that your person opposite of you is doing, but rather to come in like as much love as possible, because that as you reflect back to them, you reflect back stronger images so that they kind of wake up to what they're doing and then
Absolutely.
and achieve a transformation. So I totally agree on that. Yeah.
I have a couple things about that. Gandhi, now he's one of my go-tos to and so when people are doing the SFT tapping from my book or from my website, I tell them that they are tapping into their inner Gandhi. Everyone has the strength and fortitude and ability to change consciousness as much as Gandhi did, but they don't know how. So they use the tools in my book and they can tap into that ability before they can even like be aware of what they're doing. So that's really profound in itself, because if you got one Gandhi, imagine if we're all tapping into our inner Gandhi and be able to access that. That's the hope and intention of this book and this tool. It's that profound. So there's that. And then in sessions, I go back to the forefathers of like indigenous people. Like we were all indigenous people once, and what shifted in them losing their land was when the younger generation stopped being peaceful. When the younger generation came, they were reacting to the white man. And in that reaction, they were lowering their vibratory rate to the level of the white man. And that's where the changes came in, where they lost their land. What the forefathers before them were doing was maintaining a neutrality where they weren't being in a reactionary state. So it was that reactionary state that was what did them in.
Yeah, that's a very touchy subject in terms of taking responsibility for continuing to shine your light truthfully, despite the circumstances or the other, and it's difficult when you're a beginner and stuff. So I get it, but you are responsible, and only you're responsible for your higher frequency, the amount of light. Like even Jesus said, it's like take the light from under the bushel. That's your only responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to circle back to what you were saying before, we think, and I see a lot of it, especially last year here, with a lot of the stuff that was going on and people not learning the lesson from Gandhi or Martin Luther King. They were sort of approaching injustices with more violence, and that just begets more violence,
Right.
because it's the same energy frequency, but to react in a different way. Because if all you ever do in your whole entire lifetime is to close yourself off to being a portal for negative, lower vibrations, you've already changed the world. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what Gandhi meant when it's like, be the change you wish to see, because that's all you have responsibility to do, is to change yourself. Like Rumi, right?
Right.
Yesterday I was clever because I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise because I changed myself. That's all you really have the ultimate control over. And I see it time and time again, well-meaning people not changing themselves and doing the inner work, but trying to change the external world and society. And it's backwards. It's
But
backwards.
the only thing, Billy, though, is that people don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is they want to if they did want to. So I'm just going to say how excited I am about my book, because what my book is, and I've done this through social media in the last 4 years, everybody has been frustrated with current events. So they'll come to my Facebook page and they'll get some taps to do. So, and we call it energetic protesting. So they're not going out in the streets. They're not giving evil to evil. They're just releasing the issues so they don't have a reaction to them.
Yeah.
By doing it in themselves, they're actually making a difference in doing it to others, because in society people don't realize how powerful they are. They're trained that they're not powerful. But each person is like Gandhi. And if you just bow out of the issue yourself, then you're not attracting everyone else to that issue as well.
Well, your consciousness creates your reality, and the external world and those that be or whatever have trained your consciousness to be in their consciousness.
Absolutely.
And just like you mentioned, you're engaging in their consciousness with good intention, with good heart. But again, so why don't we jump into the techniques? Because like you said, and I totally agree with you, it's like people want to change. They want to change themselves. They want to do all this stuff, but they don't know how. In order to change the world, you've got to first heal yourself and change yourself, because then you change the world and then you'll understand what to do. So can we do that? Can we like start at the beginning? Like if someone's hearing about this for the first time, or, cause I mean, until your book came across my desk from your publicist, I've heard of ETF, but I've never heard of STF. So yeah. Can we start there and just kind of give us everyone a primer and, those first level techniques that can get people started on transformation?
Absolutely. And it is all first level techniques. It's not complicated. It's similar to EFT, and like there's tapping. So all it is a bunch of affirmations, like really dynamic affirmations. But for a lot of people, affirmations don't work because the ego is working against the change. So the ego wants you to stay embedded in the drama and stuff because it has more of a presence that way. So when you say these taps and you don't want to do it, or you can't even say the sentences, you stumble and say the words wrong, that's a gauge that the ego doesn't like this, and it's actually going to shift you. So we could take the most simple statement, and do you want to have the listener do it with us?
Yeah, sure. There's lots of people watching today, so why don't you just walk us through an exercise?
Okay, so abuse. By the way, they can get the worksheets, the SFT worksheet on my website, Jenuine Healing with a J, and then they can get a worksheet, and there's a bunch of taps for that you can like use all these taps. There's like 25 of them or something, and you use them on it's like a Mad Lib. You put the word in there, and we're going to put the word abuse in there. All right. And then they're going to release their connection with abuse. Okay. So when you say a tap, I give the clients a sentence. They say it 3 times, we'll tap in the top of their head. A 4th time, we'll tap in their chest. And a 5th time, we'll tap in the abdomen. Now, when they tap in the top of their head, their mind is a 3D printer, and it manifests everything that they tell it to. Unfortunately, we're programmed to manifest negative things. So we're going to change that. And this is bypassing the ego. The ego can't refute this because it doesn't know how. Okay, so we're just saying this. The only way the ego can refute this is trying to stop you from saying it. And then after we do that, we set this into the body through the breastbone and the heart and say, this is priority, do this. And then on the abdomen, we prevent the issue from hiding in the pelvic bowl so that it comes out later. So we're releasing it from going dormant and be able to hide for decades or whatever. Is that good?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please walk through it. Yeah.
Okay, so when you say a statement, you say it. You don't try to run through them. You don't say them sing-song. You just say a matter of fact, like Spock, and you pause. We're going to say everything. We're going to end it with in all moments, because when you say in all moments, you're changing that pattern from past ancestral patterns and future ancestral patterns. So you're not You're releasing it from things you've taken on, and you prevent yourself from passing it on to future generations. Okay? So, and so the first tap would be really easy. Are you going to tap with us?
Yeah, I'm just writing some notes down, so
Okay.
I can give everyone notes in post.
Awesome. So when I make noises, so what I do is I feel the stagnant energy, I feel the disconnect, and I emote it. I dissipate it as sound and emote it. So it's really weird to hear at first, but then you realize that you're more free and light from it. So you might like it when I make more demonstrative noises. But so I'm feeling the listeners as well. So this isn't just for you. This is actually, we're actually doing this with people. So the first statement would be, we release the abuse in all moments. We release the abuse. We release the abuse in all moments.
We release the abuse in our moment.
In all moments.
And, in all moments.
Yeah. We release the abuse.
We release the abuse in all moments.
2 more times.
We release the abuse in all moments. We release the abuse in all moments. We release the abuse in all moments.
And down the abdomen.
We release the abuse in all moments.
Are my noises freaky to you?
No.
Good. Okay, good. So, and then there's a whole bunch of taps with that. So on some level, there's this word I use called vivaxis. Do you know what a vivaxis is?
No, not that I'm aware of.
It's like an energy pull between two things. So you have mentioned like people who are abused, they seem to attract the abuse. So it's that vivaxis. See the light behind me? It's overcast today. The abuse is like this energy pull that finds you wherever you are. Doesn't matter how old you are and stuff. So we're going to release the vivaxis with abuse. So the tap would be, we remove all vivaxises with abuse in all moments.
Vivaxises?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the energy pull. That's the connection. We're going to cut that.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because it's like, I always thought that internal negative programming is like a tower and you're just pulsing it out like, bring me abuse, bring me abuse, bring me abuse.
But it's so unconscious. Yeah. There's more. You're going to love some of these.
Okay, cool. So, sorry, what was it again? We release
it's funny because your ego doesn't want to release it, so that's why you're very intelligent. It's not that, so everyone thinks they're goofing off. We remove all vivaxises with abuse in all moments.
We release all vivaxis. We remove all vivaxis in abuse.
With abuse in all moments. See, your ego is tripping you up. It's okay.
We release all vivaxis.
We remove.
We remove all vivaxis. I've forgotten already.
This is awesome. So people don't feel stupid. They're doing it too. We remove all vivaxises with abuse in all moments.
In all moments.
But don't get in the habit of writing it down, because that's another trick of the ego, is like just to write it down and get through it, and then you won't do it spontaneous. So it's okay now, but when you do it on your own, try not to write it down, okay?
Okay.
You need to hear it again?
No, I think it's okay.
Okay.
Okay. We remove all vivaxis with abuse in all moments.
Good.
We remove all vivaxis with abuse in all moments. We remove all vivaxis with abuse in all moments. We remove all abuse with vivaxis.
No.
But we remove all vivaxis with abuse in all moments. We remove vivaxis in abuse.
Nope. Your abdomen. We remove all
vivaxis with abuse in all moments.
No, you said that like just you phoned that one in. Can you say it again with intention?
Yeah. We remove all vivaxis with abuse in all moments.
Good. You want to do some more?
Well, let's leave it there. Let's
Okay.
give everyone just a sample, and then they can
Okay. There's
download
one.
the worksheet and everything. But let's have some, maybe you can explain the technique a little bit more and some of the benefits, or even the practical elements. So that does that make sense?
Yeah, but there's one that's really standing out for you to do because you've done a lot of the work. And
Okay.
here's one that you haven't gotten to, and it's saying it's you got to recant all your vows and agreements with abuse. Because on some level it sounds perverse, but energetically,
Yeah.
you set that up.
Yeah. The agreements sounds good.
Okay, so we recant all vows and agreements with abuse in all moments. And you can do that, on your own time if you want to, or we could do it now. It's up to you.
Sure, why not? I'm game.
Okay, good. This will be juicy for you.
Okay. We recant all agreements with abuse.
All vows and agreements.
Oh, vows and agreements. We recount all vows.
No, not recount them. Everyone makes that mistake. We recant.
Oh, we recant all vows and agreements with abuse in all moments.
Good.
We recant all vows and agreements with abuse in all moments. We recant all vows and agreements with abuse in all moments. We recant all vows and agreements with abuse in all moments. We recant all vows and agreements with abuse in all moments.
Good. So the SFT, the energetic cleanse that's on my website, is all these tasks that you need to do with just one issue to get them all. The normal person doesn't know why they're attracting these things, right? But that's why. And there's an underlying set of taps on my website. I'm pretty sure they're on my website. Is you have to recant your past vows. So there's ancestral vows, like vows of self-deprivation, vows of self-deprecation, vows of poverty, vows of chastity, celibacy, being only married to God, isolation, solitude. So those are the ones, and when you did those vows, ancestral, they did them forever. So those are still reverberating in your psyche. So that's why if you're not attracting the love of your life or you're not attracting money, it's because of these ancestral habits, the engrams of recanting vows. You started it. You did it initially. And that's important for people to know so that they can get out of that victim consciousness by doing these vows and realize, okay, I set this up because I thought that it was better to be poor because it was closer to God, or more pious or more holy to be poor. Well, that's just the lie they were told, because money is a neutral energy. It's not positive or negative. So.
Yeah, well, and I think in terms of to bring it back to sort of the main topic of the show, it's like worthiness as opposed to unworthiness, all these things that we're taught, untalented, etc., unworthy of a proper loving relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And once you understand that and realize that, then you can take back your power and to change that, to rewrite the script, as I've had previous guests call it. You read your life is unfolding based on a program that you've made an agreement to through that childhood wound that you're not even consciously aware is doing that. And that's why you're having all these social, and I'm using air quotes here, failures.
Right. So any of those negative words that you just said are all things that you can plug into the SFT worksheet, and you can do on it. And you can even do it on the script it said, the script or the soul contract that you work from. And you can erase all of that and bring it back to your innate essence, which is joy, love, abundance, freedom, health, success, security, companionship, creativity, peace, life, wholeness, etc.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the practical issues, because some of the things that just popping into my head, it's like, I know from my journey, but I was figuring out all on my own. So it took me years and years and years and years and years. With this process, is it a multiple repeat step? Does it depend how deeply entrenched those programs are? What are some of the expectations?
So here's the thing. I am so sensitive. I can feel other people's pain. And I've I've devoted my life and my existence to this. That's how deep my patterns have been, right? So I'm trying to help all of humanity, probably to fix my own pain on some level. So I go deep for other people so they don't have to. I've done all the research. It's just there for them. So all they have to do is either buy the book on my website and do the tasks for different issues. Like the patterning for different diseases is because of some of the ancestral patterns for different issues. Like someone who had an ancestor who was frozen to death or whatever will come back with the pattern of Raynaud's disease. Or people with neck issues had ancestral patterns of being choked or hung in a past lifetime. So there's a lot of death things. People with a weak thyroid, they're reliving ancestral patterns of being murdered or running for their life. So those are the things when I do them in real time. All of my stuff is self-taught from helping people. So these are all things that I've actually helped people release from their sessions. And that's where I found them. So it's all research. So they don't have to do the hard-hitting work. All they have to do is do the patterning. This book is a gift to humanity so that I can make the most of all this horrific pain that I've been through and get as many people out of pain as possible using my experiences. That's the only way life makes sense for me personally.
Yeah. Can we talk about the ego a second? Because it just sort of popped into my mind and I'm reflecting on my own journey. I mean, I wrote about it in my book, so, you know, everyone who's read it, whatever. But when I first, after the end of my second abusive relationship where I was almost strangled to death, I had this moment of like, how did I get here again? Right. I mean,
Right.
This is where I started to come to terms or the first inklings of a pattern. I started to see patterns and I was questioning, why is this recurring almost identically? And one of the first books I read was Joyce Meyer's Battlefield of the Mind, where she was talking about your thoughts create, you know, your and your beliefs about yourself, particularly create your environment and your situations and circumstances in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I rejected that. And I know now that was the ego sort of fighting for its survival. So to pull it in a little bit tight with the more focused question is because if someone's starting out, they're naturally, that ego is going to jump up and be like, this is a bunch of garbage, because it doesn't want to be neutralized or eliminated, you know, because belief about this stuff is a very strong thought process. Can you give some advice or some techniques to help overcome that? Because I know that was a huge obstacle, especially because when I started to study Christian Judeo texts, it was like, I mean, all the whole stigma with like Christianity and stuff. It's like so much will come at you when you start this process to not get you, regardless if it's, I mean, you could do Buddhism and it would still, the egoism would come against you to stop you, to prevent you from moving forward and out of its control. Can you talk a little bit about that and give some advice? Sure.
So fear is awesome. People think fear is the enemy and stuff. And fear is the tool of the ego to keep you from transcendent. Now, the process of enlightenment is an actual real process. I went through enlightenment when I was locked up, starved, and tortured. And it's a process of literally bypassing the ego and not being in control of the ego and having the ego reset into the body as a tool like it's meant to be. So when we're in more primal mode, like when we're reactionary and we're led around by fear, the ego is bigger than life and is preventing us from getting into danger. But the more thoughtful we are, the more we get out of primal mode, trying to figure this out, the ego isn't so helpful. And at some point when we want to outgrow even mental things that we've been conditioned to, the ego will fight us because the ego exists at the same level as the mental realms. So you got this really fight. You feel more expansive because you feel more aware, but then you also will have the ego bringing in really kind of peripheral fears, like fear of demons or fear of, aliens or fear of them versus us. The more closer you are to bypassing the ego, the more you'll get those intangible fears come in. So instead of reacting to them and seeing them as real, like everyone's against you because it's a normal process, realize that they're a gauge of how deep you are actually going. And when you can relax with that fear and outsmart it and say, okay, I'm having fear now. That means that I'm getting somewhere close. So just watch the fear instead of reacting to it.
Yeah. That was something that I've learned because early on my journey, the show used to be called Fear Not, and I was researching fear, and I've had people call fear friends and enemies, and it's just like you just said it. That was like the ultimate discovery: is fear only comes up in those moments where you're about to cross over into a next level, and if you can get over the conditioning that we've been conditioned about fear of, like, pull away, retract, right? Because I called the show Fear Not because when I read the Bible in Greek, fear not, I was like, well, how am I not supposed to be afraid? It actually means don't withdraw.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what you got to reframe your narrative with fear is like when you feel fear, that's a red flag being like, you're so close to where you're heading. And you just need to stand in the fear because it's sort of a pissing match.
Right. But there's a way to get the best and actually it's really try this with small stuff. And so the fear is the opposite of love. It's not hate, it's fear. So people react in fear, not hate, because nobody really hates. So what you have to do is make your love bigger than the fear. And these are actually ways to open your energy system, like fear and regret. Like, think of someone who lives in regret, like the glory days. They shut down their energy system, literally shut it down like a dial by using regret. And then they'll stay in the past and they'll really like deteriorate. That's the precipice of hell, is regret and fear. And the opposite of that is gratitude. Opens the chakra, opens the heart. So love or gratitude is like demonstrating love, and it's like self-love. Like if you can take any situation you're in and find something in it to be grateful for, you can pry that open a little bit. Because even like with our stories, like, thank God I was the one taking it and I wasn't the one giving it. Thank God for that. I'm so grateful for that. Thank God that I'm able to now to use that story to help others. Thank God I have compassion for anyone in the world, and I'm not one of those idiots who is judging everybody and trying to micromanage the world and doing horrific things. Thank God. So there's so much to be grateful for. Like the listeners here are probably the most compassionate people on the planet because of that. And that's a gift. That's actually a gift. It's not a curse. They're not being cursed. They're being blessed with that.
Two things. First of all, you totally triggered a memory, again, to reference Joyce Meyer. Excuse me, everyone. Look for the treasure in the trial, as opposed to looking at the trial itself. Like, why me? But like you just said, you beautifully illustrated, I'm not that other person. I may be receiving, but I'm not actually dishing out. It's like, be thankful for those things, because that's what I discovered. It's like when in those moments of fear, right, where you place your gaze, right? Even this is just basic quantum observation. Wherever you focus on, that expands even more. And like you said, people that focus on regret close down their frequency, close it down, and they get stuck in a loop pattern of regret, as opposed to, like in the mythology of Lot's wife, what she should have done was to turn her back and just focus on the new, which is very hard to do until you understand all these concepts. So I'm not, anyone out there is struggling, just keep with it. But that's the ultimate thing, is you got to switch your consciousness. And that's how you break the relationship with fear, is to, even in the Bible, it says you look away from all that distracts from unto God. It's where is your conscious observation? And that's the key. When you can understand that and practice it and practice it and practice it, you become a master at it. And then you'll know real freedom. Yeah, total.
So you want a technique for that? Because that seems like when people are getting these big mind things, it's hard to deal with. So practice. This is the one I practiced with when I was a child. And I didn't know I was being prepped for this work. I just thought I was like, whatever. So we had so many spiders. I was terrified of spiders, right? And we lived by the water, and there was no walls on it. It was just bare wood, and it was just laced with spiders. They were all over the place, and I lived in terror because of that. And so I wanted to get over the fear. And what I did was, if I ever saw a baby spider, a real tiny baby one, I would try to see how, because I love babies, I would try to see how cute it was and try to like find, oh wow, that's so cute and everything. And I'd watch them and everything to get over that fear. It's like, well, if you can love them as a baby, maybe you could like, stop being afraid of them as adults. It didn't quite work back then, but it was just one of these exercises. If you're afraid of anything, like dogs or whatever it is, or the neighbors or whatever, try to just interact with it a little bit. Try to like push through that fear in a way that's non-threatening, so that you can break down that habit, that reverberation of the fear that's so big and larger than life. So take it in small bites. Does that make sense?
Total. You know what? Because maybe I like keeping in shape or whatever, but pull like chin ups. It's like you go to the gym and you can't do one chin up, but there's like in my old house, there was a stairwell which had like a perfect ledge, and just every day, every time I walked down the stairs, I'd just do a quick chin up, and it's like, then I could start doing more and longer. It's just, it isn't whether you can do it perfectly in the moment. It's like, can you just even start the journey or the practice? Because if you do that with intention and some dedication, it's like you're opening up a different channel, which will sort of suck you into that mindset, and then you just have to let the pattern take over, and it'll transform itself. That's what I've discovered. It's like we get so wrapped up in trying to make transformation, like in the egoistic self, but all you have to do is step on the path and stay on the path, and then the path takes care of itself. It's like it's almost like a vacuum process. It just, once you bind and make that new agreement, to use your words, that's all you have to do. The rest,
Totally.
the path will take care of itself. And I know that's frustrating, because it was definitely frustrating for me in the beginning, especially because we were so conditioned for instant transformation and anything, not just in terms of spiritual or awakenings or confidence, but, why isn't it here yesterday kind of thing, But there's a peace and understanding. It's like, all you got to do is set your intention and keep your gaze on it. And there's just something magical where the transformation will take care of itself. The higher power will do the work for you. You just have to engage in it on that path, in the proper mindset.
And there's a couple things with that. So, and that's great advice. Changes a little bit, because it's not always in a straight trajectory. Sometimes your path will, and don't allow other people to move you off your path for their path, because they'll try to do that, and then you'll get misdirected, because whenever you put someone else's truth above your own, then that's a problem, because it's your journey and it's unique. You're a snowflake. It's unique to you.
Yeah, I say that a lot too. And I think Buddha said it best when it was like, don't take my word for it, go prove it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because everyone goes through the hero's process. I firmly believe that there's a pattern, but because of our different conditioning and our different outcomes, that internal spirit has to deal with your set of circumstances. And so what works for someone else, even if you're going to the same point in time or the same destination, your routes will be different because of your personal story.
That's very funny, because there's one thing that offends me. It's so funny, because like I'm really sensitive and I have different reactions than probably the regular people. There's one thing that offends me, and maybe because I'm the youngest of 10, is I don't like to be compared to anyone, because when you compare them, you're like stifling both of you. So people can compare me to Gandhi or Pope Francis or the Dalai Lama, or Rumi or whatever, but it still offends me, because you're taking something away from them and you're taking something away from me. I'm totally different. It's a different time, all that. Because allow yourself to be an individual like that. Don't buy into it. Don't need your ego stroked in any way, because the same people who will stroke your ego will be the same ones who will slap you in the face later.
Isn't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jen, we are out of time today. So I know we talked a little bit before the show about you maybe coming back on and doing a follow-up with everyone. So definitely would love to explore that and to have you back on and to, again, catch up with everyone and see how they're doing on their own personal transformation. But in the meantime, I know that you said you had a website. I know you've got a book. Can you share like your socials? I mean, how can people connect with you? Yeah.
Jenuinehealing.com with a J for my website. And this is the beauty of it. On my YouTube channel, there's two really juicy things. There's sessions, actual sessions of people's issues. They've allowed people, because people want to help others. You can watch the sessions that I've done, and the YouTube channel is genuinehealingwithaJ.com. You subscribe to that, and you'll get all my sessions there that I've done with people, and the ones I'm continuing to do. And you can people cry and they release from, and it's safe there. It's safe, so you can do that. You can get the worksheets off of my website. I'm going backwards, and you can get my book, the SFT Lexicon, which is a gem. It's going to replace a lot of the go-to books for the future, because it's all about empowerment, going within, just like Jesus said, go within. This teaches you how. It's a go-to book for that. And that the SFT Lexicon is on my website. And I also have this YouTube series, Jen and her Jammies, where I talk with my fiance, Marvin Schneider, who's really good with business. He does for business what I do for the individuals. And he's removing those archaeo patterns from businesses. And so we do this little YouTube thing where he listens to me, and he's the polished business guy, and I'm the goofball in my pajamas, and he's listening to me, and we're changing the dynamics of who's worth listening to. And it's just really powerful just for that in itself. So
awesome. Jen, as you know, it is tradition for the guests to leave everyone with some parting advice. So would you do that for us today, please?
Yes. Instead of trying to be good and be perfect and be what everybody wants you to do the opposite. Go to the things that cause the pain. If someone's going to hurt you, don't shut your heart to that. Allow them to hit that. They can't attack you anymore. They're not going to kill you or anything. It's just going to hurt the ego. So if someone's going to try to hurt you, just relax your energy into it. That's where the freedom comes. Let anyone say anything they want. Just relax into it instead of folding your energy up and protecting yourself, because you're just fortifying the ego that way. And if they are trying to hurt you in that way, they're actually helping you get free from the ego. So allow that to happen.
I'm sorry, but because you made the Dr. Spock reference, all of a sudden you said it was like shields up. That's really great advice, because it's something that I've learned too. It's like it's you're either going to shield up, or again you lean into it and lean into the transformation. It's there for you to evolve and grow and forgive the other, because they may be part of your programming that is, they have to fulfill their part in order for that incident to occur. In order for you to grow and just have a little bit of compassion, right? Jesus said, it's like, forgive them. They know not what they do.
And by the way, I love all your references, because I haven't read any of those people. And I love that you've read it all. I love that I remind you of those people. And that's a great compliment without comparing us. So thank you.
Yeah, most welcome. And Jen, I want to thank you for coming on the show today and sharing a little bit about yourself, sharing some techniques, and definitely those worksheets for everyone. So again, don't forget to check out, it was genuinehealing.com, Jenuine with a J, right? Okay, great. So again, thanks, Jen, so much for coming on, and really do appreciate it. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to get you back on the show so everyone can catch up on their progress with you.
Thank you, Billy. It's a pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
All right, my fellow Phoenixes, until next time, be well and peaceful, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the Unshakable Self-Confidence podcast, where each week, my guests and I help you get to the root of all your self-doubt, overcome your painful past, and teach you how to truly transform into a confident person. The Unshakable Self-Confidence podcast is available on all podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to sign up for Rising Phoenix, the free official monthly magazine of the Unshakable Self-Confidence podcast. You can get your free subscription today at www.unshakableselfconfidence.com/magazine.